Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yoriful, and I hope you had a great weekend. Well, as you know, in Ekiti, the guard has changed. Now it is His Excellency Biodun Oyebanji, Executive Governor of Ekiti State. Until just a few days ago, we were putting someone else's name in there, but Fayemi haven't served his second and final term, though not consecutively. It's now Governor Biodun Oyebanji of Ekiti State. Well, my guest this morning is Mr. Adewale Adeoye. He's a journalist, a public political commentator, but there's a sense in which back in the day, back in Fayemi's first term, and I'd made the point that it wasn't a consecutive, you were in that administration. So to that extent, you're a member of the House. Butlu Nkori, it is part of it. And so we shall be looking this morning at, Mr. Biodun Oyebanji at that time, I don't even know if he had the notion that he was going to become the governor. So probably not. But congratulations to the people of Ekiti and indeed His Excellency Abiodun Oyebanji on the occasion of his inauguration. Now, just to refresh our memory, we have a report, as we always do. We'll play that for you, and then we'll come back to studio, talk about it, and of course, we'll take your calls.
It was an historic occasion, as it is the first time a party is producing a successor in Ekiti State. Biodun Oyebanji, the Coxsabon administrator, is taking over from John Kayode Fayemi. The oath of office was administered first on the Deputy Governor, Munisa Diafuye, and then the Governor, Biodun Oyebanji.
Do solemnly swear.
The Governor says his administration is premised on 6 pillars and gave his word on the massive support of the Ekiti people for the presidential candidate of the APC in February 2022.
My mission for Ekiti State is to be a land of prosperity, opportunity, peace, and progress. A land in which transformed people and communities can reap the fruits of their labor in dignity, good health, and safety. A land of honor where integrity matters. Ekiti is best positioned for peace and prosperity under the leadership of Asiwaju Tinubu, and I'm sure that we will deliver our votes for him. Am I speaking your mind?
The presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his remarks congratulated the new governor and thanked the Ekiti people for their support while rallying the people of the state ahead of next year's election.
And I'm sure the peaceful conduct of the election, the great results that we harvested, demonstrated what Ekiti stands for. Another election is coming. By February, you be ready. As the president, will you vote? February, will you vote? You will vote?
Present at the inauguration are dignitaries from within and outside the state, which includes the former governor of Ekiti State, Peter Ayodele Fayose, former governor and minister for trade and investment, Otumba Niyi Adebayo, the governors of Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Edo, Plateau, Kebbi, Jigawa, deputy governor of Osun State, and former governor of Zamfara State, among others.
The people of Ekiti are in high spirits. They want the best, and the governor has promised to deliver the best. Abiodun Oyebanji is now under scrutiny. It will be judged after 4 years. The people of Ekiti are hoping that his administration will usher in not just peace, but prosperity. Ayomide Ajegbe, TVC News, Ekiti.
Okay, as I said, that's a repeat of a report that went out, one of the reports that went out, sort of marking the inauguration of Governor Biodun Oyebanji, BAO. I think some call him that, BAO. People will always look for an acronym. Biodun Oyebanji himself, not a stranger to governance. He was chief of staff to the first civilian governor in Ekiti, Governor Ni Adebayo, who was also, present at that event. And to the immediate outgoing Governor Fayemi, he was secretary to the state government of Fayemi's administration. So he knows the lie of the ground in Ekiti, should we say. And well, now elections are over, campaigns are over, he's now in office, and people say that, look, now it's time for governance. All the razzmatazz and whatever, all of that. Now you've got to start delivering on your pledges. And what do you think are the sort of, in terms of setting an agenda, what do you think are those things that Governor Oyebanji should now give his undivided or at least quality attention to?
Well, first of all, I think what has a beginning, must definitely, have an end. We cannot talk about his government without looking back at in the historical context, because he has promised that he's going to continue the legacy of his predecessor, and also he has also come up with his own agenda to complement, what the government has been doing since Fayemi left. I think first of all we need to look at Ekiti in the historical context, in terms of his political economy. When Fayemi came in, it was supposed to have resumed on May 19, 2007. But he never had that privilege until about 3.5 years later. And it was a tough battle. And I think one of the most revolutionary mass movements we have ever seen since 1983, when Ondo State rose up against the idea of imposing MPN on them. We had women coming out, naked to demonstrate. Almost every month there was mass uprising. It did not all just take the case to the public court of public opinion. It also went to court. And after 3.5 years, he became the governor of the state. As at the time he assumed that reign of leadership, Ekiti was exhausted, was weak, vulnerable, and there was so much public distrust and a lot of debt on the ground. So he had a very hooked task of rebuilding public trust that had been lost. Don't forget that the former governor that came before him, left through, Fayemi, Oni was, lost that government because they said he took that government at gunpoint. And then before Oni, we had Fayoshe, who was impeached. So there was so much political turmoil when he came in. And also you have to look at the fact that Ekiti is about number 34 on the scale of preference in terms of revenue allocation from federal government. So one of the poorest states in terms of allocation, from the federal government of Nigeria. And also when you look at the fact that it's a very small state, it's new, one of the newest states created only in 1996. So these challenges are there. And to make an impact, you need to be creative. You need to seek for partnership. You cannot just rely on allocation from federal government alone. The government gets about, I think now about 3 billion every month, which is nothing compared with, even pay. It's not even enough to pay salary. So we need to analyze that government within the context of available resources. And I think the first thing Fayemi did was to introduce biometrics, because there are so many, loopholes. People were siphoning money. The civil service was, a lot of things had to be done to ensure that they were able to save money. And I think within 1 year, I was able to save about 2 billion. The IGR rose from 109 million to almost about 800 million as we speak. So he needed to look for a creative way to drive the economy. And I think, to his credit, he was one of the first state government to pay the new salary increase, the minimum wage.
In spite of the financial
difficulties of the state. And also the fact that the state was able to introduce the welfare program, giving 5,000 naira to people above the age of 65 years. You may think this is nothing, but for a poor state, I think that is significant. And we have about 900 schools, classrooms that were built. So the focus on, based on his 8-point agenda, I think to a large extent, we can say that history will be kind to him. Because when you look at the fact that he was able to build almost about 900 classrooms, and even in terms of roads, people are complaining now that, oh, every road that goes to Ekiti is bad and all that. We are forgetting that people that travel to Abuja usually pass through Ilorin to Jeba. But now everything is concentrated, all traffic is now focusing on passing through Ekiti. So the prayer, by a lot of vehicles passing through that state has increased tremendously. Okay. That's why most of the federal routes when you are going to Ekiti is bad. Actually, in spite of that problem, if you go to Ekiti State now, the intercity roads from Oye to Otun to Iye, that road has been tarred. The Ado Ekiti in a road, is dual carriage about 6 lanes has been completed. We are talking about Agbado Ode Omo Road has been completed, and then we are talking about the cargo airport. People are saying that, oh, why do we don't need a cargo airport and all that? But you see, projects are not just for the immediate needs of the people; it's also for the future. And that cargo airport is not supposed to serve Ekiti alone. It's supposed to also meet the demands of states like Edo, Kogi, Kwara, because a lot of people who have heavy equipment want to move them down to the hinterland, and there are no seaports. So they have to use any dry port that is available. So I think that cargo airport is quite commendable. Okay. It's going to be very useful to, for people in Ekiti State in terms of agricultural products and also the frontier state that surround Ekiti State. So I think, and also the pavilion, then also donating, giving 41,555 laptops. He started it, to students. That was as far back as 2012, even before Osun State started its own program. I think those are quite commendable. And if you want to look at the achievement in the context of development index, even by the World Bank, Ekiti State now has literacy rate of about 75%. That is commendable. And when you are looking at poverty rate, it's just about 12.5%. So I think when you look at it from that angle, in terms of human capital development, we can say that within the limited resources available, I think Fayemi has left a landmark in that state. Indeed. And as you said, history, probably will be kind to him. When you're speaking about the roads there, because that's another thing that one has heard commentary on, that you've explained why the roads that are the way they are, not the best, and why people are complaining. But also, successes have been made in terms of internal roads. Sure. So there's all of that the new governor Oyebanji will have to, and he said it's going to be a continuum, which is the way it should be. Yeah. Regarding the whole matter of the airport, yes, there was criticism for that, as you well know. People were saying that, what is the situation? Why do we like these grandiose projects? But maybe, Oyebanji was part of the administration, so he knew everything. And as you said, there's also the agricultural aspect to it, perishable commodities and all of that. He probably is going to be quite useful. So I guess, as you said, Biodun Oyebanji, governor, has said that he's going to continue where his predecessor left off. But he also has his own plans. Give us an insight into some of the things Oyebanji thinks he should be and would be able to complete, or at least take to a very long place. Well, I listened to his speech yesterday, and I think there are impressive vocal points. First of all, is that if you look at the way he has started his government, immediately won that election, he had to reach out to a lot of agri parties. People who are, even including Fayoshe, people who are against him, who are against the government. So I think it's a conscious attempt to build an all-inclusive government. And if you look at what, if you watch the inauguration, even Fayoshe in PDP is there. Edo State governor is there. Exactly. So I think that's a very liberal way to start. Yeah. And I think it's going to give him a lot of... And they were there because he invited them. Yeah, he invited them. So I think that is quite impressive. It's a good way to start, an inclusive government. And if also when you look at the fact that the governor attended primary school in Ekiti State, he attended secondary school in Ekiti State, and then university in Ekiti State. We usually say that Ekiti is a state of teachers, civil servants. He's also a teacher. So we are having somebody who is part and parcel, who is part of it's an integral part of Ekiti culture and heritage. So I think he has a good understanding of Ekiti State in terms of the political economy, in terms of the culture, in terms of the values. And I believe that this is a strength for him. He has spoken that he's going to focus on agriculture and education. And he also spoke about security. So I think those are critical areas. And also he spoke about industrial development.
Indeed.
So I think he has started on a very good note. And I believe that in the next few years, we should be able to judge him better, because we don't judge leaders just by their statements. But if you look at his past, he was former chief of staff, he was former SSG. And also when you look at the vote that he garnered, if you combine the votes of PDP and SDP together, it's not even up to. So it means that he enjoyed a lot of goodwill.
A lot of goodwill
and
support.
I hope you'll be able to build on that goodwill.
Okay. Tony in the UK, good morning, and thank you very much for holding on. Please go on now.
Yeah, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, Tony.
Hello.
Thank you for holding on.
Yes,
go ahead now, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Yori, please, Professor Yori, please, can you answer? Can you educate me more? When you say my question is out of what you're discussing now. My question is out of what you're discussing now, but I just want to know something from you now. When you say federal government, who are these federal government? Whenever you say you've taken decision, federal government. The federal government is it Buhari, Solomon, and Mohammed. Who are these federal government when you say federal government? Can you explain to me federal government?
Yeah, as soon as I can understand what you're talking about, Tony.
Nigeria. Can you explain to me those that form federal government?
I would have loved to, if only I could understand what you're talking about, because I don't know if you were watching another program before, switching to us, but we're talking about the election in Ekiti and the inauguration yesterday of the new governor. That's what we're talking about. I don't think we've mentioned the federal government yet this morning. So maybe, I think Tony might have been watching another program.
Or maybe
while he's surfing.
We are talking about federal roots. Maybe he's trying to find out what we mean by federal government neglect of those federal. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
Okay. When he said, I want you to tell me who is the federal government.
Yeah, well, one of the fault lines of democracy in Nigeria is that there are so many roads that are, designed as federal roads. And the state governments are not expected to work on them. And these federal roads are everywhere. And if these roads are bad, there's little the state governments can do. Unfortunately, the federal government has not been responsive enough. You remember that even took the Lagos state government to tar Ikorodu Road, built as far back as 1978, but at the time it was so bad, it had to be the government of Ashwayo had to repair the old road. And most of the time when these roads are repaired, the federal government fails to pay back to the state governments. So in Ekiti State, there are a lot of federal roads that are terribly bad.
Oh, okay.
And so, the federal government has not lived up to expectation in that respect.
Okay. So, Tony, with due respect, now I have a better understanding of, you just caught that and, spoke on that. Say, who exactly is this federal government? Hopefully, Adewale Adeoye's commentary might have addressed that a bit. But there are other things to talk about if you would care to join in that conversation, which is now that he's in office, Governor Oyebanji will need to hit the ground running, and he's well placed to do so, having been in the political system in Ekiti for quite a while. We mentioned the fact that he was the first, the first democratic governor, right?
Smooth transition.
The transition,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otumba Adeni Adebayo, he was chief of staff to that governor, and he also was secretary to the state government in Fayemi's administration. Now, I have someone else also from the UK. Who is in the UK?
Yeah, this is Stephen calling.
Stephen?
Hello, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead. Very well, thank you. Please go ahead now.
And I salute, I greet the the other gentleman.
Mr.
Very
Adeoye.
competent in his trade. I appreciate you. I just want to seize this opportunity to congratulate the people of Ekiti. I'm from Ekiti.
Okay.
And I feel so good at what I saw yesterday. Fayemi, the care of the elderly is very common here. We take care of the vulnerable.
Okay, yeah, in the UK.
And the Oyebanji coming in, I want to greet him. About the airport, I would have loved if it is the type that we convey people rather than cargo. I was already in I've come home twice now. I couldn't get to Ekiti. That's one of the most painful things to me because everybody was saying it's not safe, this and that. You know, I would have loved a situation whereby I can just take, plane from Lagos to Ekiti. And I love Ekiti. And please help us, I'm so excited about what I'm seeing here. So I wish them well, and Ekiti will continually make progress.
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Stephen. A proud, you see, if it were Anambra now, they say an Ambrarian. What do you say of an Ekiti man?
Ekiti is Ekiti.
A proud Ekiti man,
Yes.
and he just had to touch base. But he touched on that point that is a sober. Look, he's in the UK. He's come home about twice, not being able to visit because of the situation or the roads, what they would have told him. And actually, when our people decide to tell a story, often their back is a lot more than their bite. But so I guess Tony is saying that as far as he's concerned, although the airport is not a passenger airport, I think that needs to be said. So when Tony was saying that he would have loved to be able to nip over, it's a cargo airport. So it's like Governor Fayemi, they were thinking that, look, one thing before the other. It's really to add value. It's really to add value for commercial purposes, first and foremost, not for, if you want, egalitarian purposes. Reverend Dominic, a fine morning to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Reverend Dominic.
Okay. Let's just congratulate the incoming governor and pray for God to give him wisdom and understanding and good health.
He has come in already. He's not incoming again. The present governor.
Okay. Yes, it's okay. The sitting governor. Sorry. I said we pray for wisdom and good health and understanding from God for him to carry out his duties. That's my prayer. But let me continue on what we call federal rules.
Okay.
When we do campaign, we hear politicians is this. They always say we want this state to be part of federal government. And the reason to be in the mainstream of politics, the reason politicians say that is this, so that they can bring back the largest, in quote, all the federal government to their state. Because when the state and the federal government is in one party, form one government, it's easier for things to work. But it's unfortunately in our own state here that the people we are talking about is APC. The government in center is APC, and we're still talking about federal rules. Does it gel? That shows the character of our governance here. If the government at home is the same government in the federal, there could be understanding about these rules. You got there in Ekiti, not only in Ekiti, my state, in Anambra, even in Lagos here, Abiodun Oyebanji, all of them is terribly bad. But this government of this state are the same government in the center. Does it speak well of understanding? Does it speak well about what I call the principle of democracy? In everywhere in the world, every party wants to have majority in the parliament. So their policies and programs can, go unhindered. But in our state here is different. If the state road is bad, we should not blame anybody outside there. We should blame people at home. Because the same government, the same party, if I say, the same language. So this issue of, we happen in Lagos here. And I assure you, I love assured I'm an evil man. What I use and love assured you, in 1999, there's a place you see, they say this is a federal government road. But there's a criticism that what is this federal government? Even though Ashwaji was a different party, and the party in the center was different, even as the criticism of Obasanjo, Ashwaji began to be built federal road in Lagos. Because how many people know what is federal road? How many Nigerians know this is federal, this state? Few of us. Because the road is in Lagos. Whatever the road brings in that state is for that state. Buhari did not pass a road in Abiodun or in Ekiti. It is Lagosians or Ekiti people that pass through that road. So that the reason of federal road doesn't make sense. We must find a way to harmonize it. If the party is one and one in the center,
Indeed.
this is what we must do. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in, Reverend. I believe this further expands on Tony's point when he called in and was saying he wanted to investigate the federal government. Now, Tony, if you're still watching, I get you a lot more clearly. But you see, I don't know the extent to which one can really follow this line of federal government and federal roads and state roads. I don't know. Take the massive infrastructural development that's gone on in the southeast. The second Niger Bridge and all of that. Massive. Yet the federal government, so to speak, in terms of the context we're talking about it now, is not over there. They're not over there. Yet this Buhari APC federal government just knows that it's development that is indispensable. And so they've really committed a heck of a lot to it. And it's going to be standing as one of the pillars of this particular administration.
I think for Nigeria to actually realize its full potentials, we need to decolonize the political system. The federal government needs to give out a lot of responsibilities to states. In the United States, I've never heard of a Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Transport. So these roads that we are talking about, like you rightly said, Ekiti man doesn't want to care whether this one is federal or whatever. Why should even Ekiti say, the federal government say this federal road? Do they own the land? You just come and say federal road, this one federal road. Where do you come with that kind of unitary system? So I think we need to disempower the federal government to empower local communities so that the states can take over responsibilities of building roads. Look at the quantum of vehicles passing through Ekiti every day. They no longer pass to Kwara. Everyone going to Abuja, even some going to Ekiti State. And then, every duty vehicle sometimes, and this prior is on a very small state, they are barely generating 800 million to 1 billion naira, as IGR every month. So we need to look at the federal structure so that states could have more power, to be able to do those roads that are,
this is the kind of thing that could possibly be mopped up in a restructuring, even if it is minimal, even if it is not wholesale. But these are points that may be a preliminary kind of a thing, although not all politicians actually think restructuring is important. But that's the topic for another day. You know what? Let's take a quick break now. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. We'll continue this conversation and indeed taking your calls. Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the transition in Ekiti. Governor Fayemi has served his second, though not consecutive term, but he's served his 2 terms now, and in place is now Governor Biodun Oyebanji. There's so much that has to be done all over the country, not to talk of just Ekiti here, but even in Ekiti, I recall that earlier you were talking about back in 2009, they're generating 109 million, not billion, million. 109 million naira back in 2009. You were telling me that this was in the Adebayo Fayose.
No, the Fayose Shegoni.
Fayose Shegoni. Right up until at the present time, where that 109 million internally generated revenue has now increased to 800. There have been months when it has actually nudged a billion.
1 billion,
But still, in terms of what needs to be done, these are infinitesimally small. So they clearly can't be getting by on that. Much improved as the IGR is. They can't be getting by on that. So maybe when I take this call, because Ada in Jos has called in, and Ada doesn't like to be held up. Good morning to you, Ada.
Good morning, Mr. Yori, and your guest there.
Thank you.
I'm so happy about what happened in Ekiti State. And it has broken the jinx, These jinx of, Ekiti people, now, those people, they're fond of doing Shakara Ole again. You know, there are people you cannot beat when it comes to elections. But I'm happy now that because of the way Fayemi, you know, the kind of projects he did there, and the good governance, that was what translated to their being able to succeed. That is having another successor from APC. It hasn't been the trend there. And I like that. That's what it should be. But when it comes to development, let me tell you, the problem with Nigeria is this. If we continue the way we are continuing, no matter who you put there, even if you put Angel Gabriel, nothing will change. Our problem is structural. It's structural. We have to practice fiscal federalism. Restructure this country. Let people control their resources, and they pay tax to the center. They can tax them heavily, but let them control. That will make most governors to think outside the box. You know, there's no state that is not viable. But because of we have allowed them to lazy around. That is the problem. That is the problem with Nigeria. Nothing else. If anybody who goes there now and starts telling us that they're going to restructure this and that, and then they get there tomorrow and they don't restructure, we're going to have the same problem. Take what I'm telling you to the bank. That is the problem we have in Nigeria. We are blessed. We're not naturally blessed, but we are not tapping into those things. Everybody's eyes is on the oil. You say you want to, diversify the economy, but yet your eyes are focused on oil. Your seats perspective for oil. Is it the way to go? Focus attention on non-oil sector, so that we can have more foreign exchange and all that. All kinds of funny policies. Look at what happened in Britain, Mr. Yori. Look at what happened. If they throw us fire the finance minister or whatever. But in Nigeria, is it like that? That's when they fasten their seatbelts and be telling us all kinds of stories. Okay. Let's not give up on this country. All that shall be well.
Thank you very much, Ada, for calling in. You know, okay. So, in fact, the point that Ada made about everybody being focused on oil, I think the former Emir of Kano, he also made this point over the weekend. He was at some gathering, and it was a criticism that he made that, look, we have to wean ourselves off it. It's a wasting asset, and it's the earlier, the better. But coming into where we, sort of segued up because Ada called in, and we will do it. Anybody that calls in, I'll interrupt myself mid-sentence so that we don't lose those calls. Those calls are an integral part of the program. What are the ideas that he can explore in terms of enhancing 800 million is chicken change, let it be said, in the scale of things? Yeah.
You know, Dr. Fayemi did certain things because it's so easy to criticize. But when you are wearing the shoes, you know how it feels. He reduced the salaries of his aides, and they also cut down his own salary. That was one of the things he did in order to be able to save costs. And I think he also ran a very small cabinet. There are some states where you go, you have about almost 200 aides and all that. So,
and advisors.
Yes, advisors.
I think Governor Wike was telling us that. So somebody said some thousands. He said those are they are advisors, aides.
So I think one of the things that the new governor needs to do, and I believe that's what he's going to do, he needs a smart, and very swift and efficient cabinet. I know it's not going to be easy because for many politicians, who participate in the election, everybody wants to be given a post.
Yeah, payback time.
Yeah, but you have to look at the overall interest of the people, and he also needs to get people that are honest, people that are driven by the interest of the people. And I'm happy with the little appointments, the few appointments we had made. For instance, he retained the CPS. Everybody knows Oyebode to be very fantastic, very humble, very loyal.
The chief press secretary.
Yeah, and also the chief of staff, Oyebode. Folorunsho Bode, who was former commissioner for agriculture. These are people that are well known, in fact, right from their student days. So if you can keep on that momentum
of bringing creative people. 1 second, please. Let me not keep Mazi Okora for waiting in Arochukwu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, I guess, in the studio.
Good morning, Mazi.
Thank God today is Monday. Congratulations to Governor Oyebanji to come on board. I will pray that he will bring everybody together, those opposition parties, his opponents, right from the primary to this very level. Now, for the governor, Fayose and the State governor, please, we still remember Fayose as the governor infrastructure. stomach infrastructure. I was very happy to see my Edo State governor. In short, I was thinking maybe it was a PDP affair. It was later I discovered it was an APC government. That is what we talk about, brotherhood and statesmanship and sportsmanship. At least bringing other governors from other political parties to be part and parcel of the swearing ceremony is very, very good. At least they too, in the course of the governance, to do was to contribute their own quota, directly or indirectly, at least for the government, because their state, which is Ekiti State, is their state. It is nobody says that is not our state. No. Contribute, whether you are a past governor or the president. Continuity is what we want in this country. There are systems, an incumbent governor, you are coming, and past governors, you now be sitting that let's restructure the system. It's not healthy. Wherever the past governor have stopped, please, my brother, do what? Continue. This will make things, at least, to move forward. We have seen how flood is ravaging the country. Today, the world is celebrating Food Day and the elevation of poverty. How do we celebrate food security? How do we celebrate elevation of poverty? Under this type of flood, which everybody knows that each governor has a job to do to make sure anything that will bring flood into within the environment before wars of the to avert it. Because waiting for subsidy for this gift from Abuja to it will not work. Please, incumbent, the governor Oyebanji, please, I'll just do the needful. Because what Nigeria wants, what the Ekiti State border, one, health, education, and what? Security. We are not talking about the economy, but at least you are part and parcel of the educational system. You are part and parcel of our teacher service. Please, let everybody at least have the minimum qualification. If it's very possible, if you can afford to pay WAEC exams for students, it will also be encouraged as an educationist. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mazi Okoroafo. Back onto this matter about he's going to need to be thinking creatively. Yeah. And you've pointed out that, look, you are hopeful that he will bring in a whole lot of creative people, even as there are pressures to, also do the needful in terms of, well, now we've done our part, you're in office, people would have done that. Not all of them were doing it with a quote-unquote church mind, as we say locally. It's a payback time. But they have them there. People think of Ekiti people as, the brain people. Education is tremendously important to them. You're talking about the current governor being a teacher. So he's going to pay attention to all of that. But is there very much leeway when you see, because when, His Royal Highness, is that the proper way to address the former Emir of Kano? When he was speaking about this point yesterday, he says far too many governments are not interested in weaning themselves off the Abuja monthly stipend. And that's not going to last us forever. So he's probably going to have to come up with, well, as you said, creative people, but also, creative modus operandi. Policies.
I think, like the governor has said, the new governor, agriculture. And he mentioned agriculture, and I think he just needs to build on the foundation already laid by his predecessor. Because Ekiti has about 6,000 square kilometers of land, and one of the most arable land, in the country. So I think it needs to focus more, because if you remember the old Western region, the focus on that time was on cocoa and palm oil. And with that funds, just for 8 years, Awo was able to transform the entire landscape into one of the, fastest growing economy in the world. But one thing that stood Awo out, these days people talk about private public partnership. Awo introduced public community partnership. When you talk about community schools, it started in days of Awo. People on their own were building schools. Carpenters were coming to work free of charge. They were donating, iron sheets. So if we need to go back, because governance is not just about people in power developing communities. People on their own must also own the process. They must be able to participate in development. For instance, there is a road that passes through your town. it has a lot of potholes. You don't need to wait for the government. The youth in those communities should take it as a responsibility to patch those roads.
So while the governor and government are doing all that they can, self-help also has its place.
Community partnership, it has a very strategic role to play.
Okay. Sorry for you, because Mr. George has been holding on for a while. Good morning to you, Mr. George in Ikeja.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to Mr. Aderi.
Yes.
Thank you. Uncle Yori, what I saw in Ekiti yesterday also was a great happening. It was a good happening. The fact that the new government was able to rally around all previous governors and all those that matters in the state, that tells me that he will be able to build cooperation and bridges. I saw the personalities. There were so many, all those that matters in APC were there. So he should capitalize on that and perform. I don't agree with those who are blaming structures for non-performance. There are some governors that are performing. Is it not the same structure that they are using? It's a bad workman that blames his tools. There's no governor in this country, Uncle Yori, that doesn't have the kind of resources that he can make do with in his own state, provided he is willing to explore them. We have seen, I don't want to be naming governors, but there are many governors in Nigeria that have used what is available in their state to give their people the very best that they can. I want to advise the new governor to work closely with Ondo State governor in terms of security. We see what the Ondo State governor is doing with Amotekun, using it to ensure that there is no infiltration of these bad boys into the southwest. So he that is next to him there should cooperate with him to ensure that that effort is sustained. And I also saw the Asiwaju Tinubu there. He should remember that Asiwaju does not support a non-performer. He puts people in places that he sure can perform. For him to get Asiwaju's support, it means he just has to perform. It's just a candid advice I'm giving him. Talking is cheap, but performance is what we want from our leaders. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. That point there, it's not exactly a small one, that he rallied around previous governors, irrespective of their parties. And, it's remarkable. It might not be a big deal to in other climes, but it's remarkable that he said, look, it's like as if he knew that this inauguration is about me, my first day on the job. And it's not a campaign kind of a job. It's not politics. This is now governance. And so all of these people that have been privileged to have been placed in that position to govern over Ekiti, he invited them all in. And there's a symbolism in there. Mr. George was pointing out that it encourages him.
Because there's nothing that happens in Ekiti State that does not affect the neighboring states. If you are talking about crime, you are talking about agriculture, if you are talking about just name it. So there is a need for you to understand that irrespective of political parties, there is the lowest common factor, that brings all of them together. So I'm happy that, I saw Edo State there. Sometimes people commit crime in one state and they run to the other. So you need to share ideas, you need to share, aspirations together, because there is a lot of things that bind you together. And I'm also aware they invited Kungi, though the governor may not be there, but I'm sure he's a representative. So I think it's a good thing that, he did. And even inviting the former governor, there is no way you not learn one or two things from them.
Exactly. And they feel part of an inclusive process.
Process.
So, so he sort of alerted that, look, these are all, we're all laborers, as it were, in the vineyard of Ekiti
and they're indigents of the state. So there's no reason why they should be excluded from the process. And at one point or the other, they were also leaders in that state. So I think he has started on a very good note. And I think he has a lot of goodwill of the people, and just a lot of goodwill of the people. And based on his background, his creativity, his knowledge of the state, and the reputation that he has built for himself, since 1999, there has never been any scandal associated with him. And he has been in government. So I think this is a very good opportunity for Ekiti State to build on the foundation that has been laid by Dr. Fayemi.
Now, exactly. And for Governor Biodun Oyebanji. It's like today is like, if you want, it's the first Monday after the inauguration, so people will still be taking it easy. But it's like from now on, I wouldn't be surprised if within a week people began to say that, how far so far? Because people are impatient, can't be
impatient. For a very critical state.
Yes.
A lot of educated people.
Yes, and they know that they can take it for granted that he's hit the ground running, Ashwaju was also there.
Yeah, quite impressive.
Quite proud.
A lot of inspiration for the people there to see Ashwaju there.
Exactly.
Quite impressive.
And exactly. Okay, Mr. Okeke in Anambra, good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead, you're on air now.
Yes, I want to first of all congratulate the people of Ekiti State for the successful takeover of the new governor. Yeah. So, really congratulate Ekiti people for successful takeover of the new governor. Nigeria is a blessed country. Every other state in Nigeria can easily sustain ourselves. The only problem we have in Nigeria is bad leadership. Ekiti State is an agrarian state. It needs only a good leader to harness the environment for the good of the people. We are very good human beings, very hardworking people, very resourceful people. Why can't they harness what we have? I hope this governor will follow the example of Fayemi and even improve on that, so that the people of Ekiti State will enjoy the dividends of democracy. Moreover, may I congratulate him again for inviting even the hard oppositions, people that oppose his politics. I believe he's a good. He has shown good friendship, and I believe they are going to help him if he consult them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okeke, for calling in. Indeed, it's a point worthy of note. We were making that point before you came on, that he's established the fact that he has a good rapport with them. Because if there were any hard feelings, some of those governors wouldn't have attended.
Oh, yeah.
But that they did sort of attests to the nature of the man.
One of the most important things you need to develop any state is stability. Everybody talking about Lagos, worldwide, in spite of all the underdevelopment in Nigeria, people make reference to Lagos because there is a kind of continuity. There is a kind of stability.
Exactly.
So you need a stable environment before you can even talk about political and economic development. So I think that's one advantage that the current governor has.
And who can know? Who knows Ashwaju's mind? But he was there yesterday. Yeah. He was there. Yeah. He was proud. Yeah. You just spoken about Lagos. You can't really talk about modern Lagos, the development of Lagos, without talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
the founding father,
exactly, of the modern
1999 of the modern
exactly. Yeah. And he was there, very high spirits. So he approves, and I don't know.
And I believe there could be a lot of economic integration, even between Lagos State and Ekiti State. If Lagos State can invest in Kebbi State in rice, it means it can also do the same thing, in Ekiti State. So it's just putting up our thinking cap to see how we can harness all the potential that we have in terms of regional integration.
That Kebbi rice that you mentioned just now, I don't know, are we seeing that rice? Because Lagos should be awash with that rice. There's a bit of a maybe it's not flowing as we thought it would be flowing.
Maybe I have not monitored what is going on there, but I know there was an investment, and at a time we could see the rise.
Yes.
So maybe because of the distance, maybe because of insecurity, but Ekiti is closer.
Indeed.
So if Kebbi could not offer us, in terms of maximum output, Ekiti should be able to do that.
But at least we have a partnership.
Yeah, I believe the security situation in that part of the country may have affected,
the smooth running of that particular initiative.
Because at the time that thing was conceived, nobody ever thought about this terrorism.
It would get this bad.
Yeah.
And just briefly talking about security, Ekiti, crime and other terrorism-related activities. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a major problem. However, in terms of comparative analysis, Ekiti State is still relatively safe compared with the crisis of the Federation. The problem they have, the crisis is not internally generated. They are, from outsiders, alien interest, who invade the farms, chase away the farmers. And I think there have been tremendous efforts made in terms of the Amotekun, with over 300 people that have been employed. And actually, this process started in 2012, when the government employed 800 people. They were called Peace Corps, who were given intelligence training. Some of them were supposed to go abroad for training to Israel, but unfortunately, the Fayemi government lost that election, so they could not continue. And the government that came in disbanded them, but now we have Amotekun. So I think there should be more intelligence training, and of course, more cooperation with the federal government. As at now, we are not having the required cooperation. You request for drones, but you don't get it because you have to apply to the National Security Advisor. So we need to break down the system so that communities can police their environment more effectively. I think as we have it now, the structure of the federal government in terms of policing communities is a huge hindrance. And I think that's going to affect the coming administration in Ekiti State, no doubt.
So we're going to have to leave it there, Adewale. But again, goodwill, congratulations to the people of Ekiti State, and in particular, the man at the helm of affairs, the new governor, Biodun Oyebanji.
Yeah.
And so we would certainly wish all the people of Ekiti well. Congratulations once again. So we're going to have to leave our program here. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your insights with us. Join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.